Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are watching this. Joining me today is Sailash Patel, Head of Data and Analytics at INEOS Automotive. And we are at the rather spectacular, some may call gladiatorial, Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, London. So firstly, Sailash, thank you very much for agreeing to chair the lunch that we're holding later today, the Data Elevation Roundtable.
You're welcome, thanks for having me.
No problem at all. And sharing the story of your journey with data and also the remarkable story of INEOS Automotive over the last 2 years. So we're looking forward to seeing this. Well, the data journey certainly with Catalyst over the last 2 years, but yeah, it's been an awesome journey. I'm sure people out there will be really interested to hear the story of, I guess, really David and Goliath in the automotive industry. But firstly, before we get into the story and some of the things about your journey, I've got a few facts to wow you about this fabulous stadium.
Right.
So the first fact is, if you look down to this fantastic pitch here, the pitch is actually on 3 steel plates that get moved by robots and can actually go underneath the south stand.
Oh, wow.
And then below it, an full NFL pitch gets raised up.
Wow.
Which is a fabulous piece of engineering. And if that's not James Bond enough for you, under the south stand, that grass can last there for 2 weeks with full irrigation, full cooling, wow, full lighting, which is pretty cool.
That must take some analytics.
Absolutely. And so the second point, which is probably my favourite, is this stadium holds the longest publicly open bar in the UK.
Wow.
86.8 metres long, wow, which is pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
And the third feature I'd like to point out to you, and it's actually in the northwest corner of this stand, is the Tottenham Hotspur Club motto, which is in Latin. I'm not going to try and pronounce it because it might go a little bit Anglo-Saxon, and then this whole piece would be pretty unusable. But in English, the motto is "To dare is to do."
Right.
And I think that's pretty relevant to the story of INEOS and your story with data that we're gonna talk to you about today.
Wonderful.
And you're going to share with us. So before we get into, I guess, the journey with data at INEOS, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself, your background? What did you do before you landed at INEOS? And when you took the job at INEOS, what were you facing? How did you get there? What was the start of the journey?
Sure. Well, thank you for that really wonderful introduction. So in terms of my own career, I humbly started working on a service desk. So service and operations was my first footing into IT. I was responsible for managing a batch processes for finance, which really got me into learning SQL, and also working with a analytics platform called Cognos Impromptu, which I think eventually was bought by Oracle. The good point about that was because I was in a customer or end user stakeholder facing department, it meant that I got a real good appreciation for service and support, operations and service support around data and analytics. I then went on from there to go into consulting for quite some time. I cross-trained into a platform called Business Objects. I then also got a foundation in all things data modeling. I actually have had the pleasure of meeting Ralph Kimball and being trained by him as well. So yeah, dimensional modeling, snowflaking, and all the modeling tech side of data engineering. Then predominantly responsible for doing data engineering using some software that's no longer around, but for example, DTS, SSIS, Informatica, Pentaho, using lots of different technology to build data pipelines, but also having that remit of working with analytics as well, be it using Tableau, Cognos, Impromptu, all the different flavors. So I've got that balance element of working in data and analytics.
And that's quite unusual. It's probably becoming more common now, but certainly in the past, there was very much a hard divide between the data engineering side of the business and then the analytics side of the business.
Indeed, and I think that's where my experience, I've been fortunate in my experience, and I think that's mainly because I did the consulting, and consulting always works in a way where you're pushed to do more than just be a one-trick pony, do more than just one thing. After that, I left consulting and got my first stint as a manager, basically heading up data analytics at Camelot National Lotteries, which is a fantastic brand, which was a fantastic brand to work for. That really sort of got me into thinking more about vision around data, strategy around data, working more closely with the marketing teams, understanding sort of what drives the business, and basically implementing analytics that helps drive that business. And then slowly but surely, I've had various different careers. The teams got bigger, onshore, offshore, and then I guess one of my favourite projects to work on has been the Nectar data warehouse for Sainsbury's.
Oh, wow.
And then ultimately I landed at INEOS Automotive, where essentially I fulfilled my lifelong ambition of working on a greenfield data analytics project, which not many people get to do. But yes, when I was given the opportunity, I jumped at it.
So you got the role at INEOS that you always wanted. It was a greenfield site. Mm-hmm. It was a business with big aspirations to become a global player from the ground up. Effectively, you're sitting at your desk. You've got a blank piece of paper in front of you. Where did you start? What were the challenges that you faced?
Yeah, it was really interesting. So day one, I actually started my role during lockdown. So it was also a case that I wasn't going to meet the people that I'm working with face to face. I was shipped a laptop, met the IT director, and he basically said, "This is your blank sheet of paper. You need to talk to the business and make something of it. You've got the skills and experience, so off you go." So I think my first point of call really was to meet with the commercial director at the time, and basically discuss what the vision was for the vehicle. Bearing in mind that we had no view on sort of what the sales for this vehicle would be like, what the market for this vehicle would be like. And I also sort of honed the conversation around what sort of capabilities we were looking for. It was hard for the commercial team to really describe sort of the capabilities they're looking for, because they didn't know what they didn't know. And that's kind of where my expertise came into it. One of the remits I was given directly was that because we were a new business, budgets were tight. So I had to provide a capability for the best in class capability at the lowest cost point, and basically also deliver a lot of time to value. We didn't have a lot of time. I think when I joined the company in 2020, we were trying to release the car in the first 2 years of 2022. So we had to get everything up and running very quickly. So again, I had to deliver analytics with time to value, and the key focus was around sales. The initial focus was around reservations, like who's interested in the vehicle. So that was essentially the first project I worked on. In terms of my sort of vision and strategy I put together, I basically look back to my experience. I know that very large companies can spend, some can spend millions, some can spend hundreds of thousands basically devising a strategy and a vision. I kept it very simple. I basically centered it around 4 common themes. One being the outputs of the system, the other being the stakeholders of the system, the other one being the capability of the system, and the last one being around the cost of implementation, service, and support. And factoring those four key themes, that's how I essentially devised the overarching strategy and vision. After that, I looked into solution technology, so essentially which solutions are best fit for the capability that we want to deliver. Now, at the time, again, the concept of the vehicle was still, whilst it was there was still, looking at manufacturing that vehicle. They were still looking at what capability that vehicle would have. So there's so many different conversations happening. But there were conversations around, having connected vehicle at the time. That was quite a major theme as well, knowing that vehicles of today are readily connected to services. So bearing that in mind, and with a slant of sort of, even though the business didn't say they wanted near real-time analytics, I kept in the back of my mind that there could always be the use case to have that.
Okay.
So
I guess it was a mixture. So potentially in the future, with the data coming from the car, there would be lots of unstructured data
Correct.
for
Yes.
that. So you needed a solution to be able to cope with that. But then I guess you also had all of your corporate data coming from your main ERP planning system as well.
Yes.
Remind me, what are you using for that?
So our core source platform at the time, the chosen platform was SAP.
Okay.
We essentially, most of our source systems are SAP, except for manufacturing engineering, which is Team Center. And the then enterprise architect worked very closely with them to devise the data analytics solution technology strategy as well. So picking the solutions, SAP, making sure that the solutions work with SAP was one of the key components of that. So then, I guess,
at this time, so you've got your structured data coming from SAP. You've got potentially lots of, an unknown quantity of unstructured data that could be coming from the cars in the future.
Indeed.
You've got potentially unstructured data coming from sort of IoT from the production facilities as well. You've got a modest budget because effectively you're in startup mode.
Yes.
What sort of size was the team at the time? Was there a big team around you to do all of this?
So we were a very lean team, to be honest. All the essentially the then IT director had got all in place all of the heads of service delivery, head of cloud services, head of enterprise architecture, etc. So we didn't have resources to do any delivery at that point in time. I think on the SAP side of things, that had already gone ahead anyway. A lot of that infrastructure, a lot of that the service had been provisioned by the time I had joined. Bearing in mind that INEOS Automotive started, I think, a couple of years before I joined. The way.
Okay. So given those challenges, so you've got lots of complex data to get out of SAP. You've got you need to deliver something in a short space of time because you need to bring cars to market.
Yeah.
You've got a very, very small team around you. Given those challenges, did they impact the technology choices?
100%.
You
Yeah.
made?
So they did. So essentially, I ran a comprehensive RFP. I had when I ran that RFP, essentially all of the partners that we went out to came back with the same theme, repeatedly the same theme. There were essentially, because we are an Azure shop, so all of our cloud services are on Azure. All the consultancies came back with, well, just use Data Factory, just use Databricks. And I was looking at a multi-year, multi-million-pound, project. That RFP was run in conjunction with the enterprise architecture and the IT director as well, and procurement. It was felt that we wouldn't have those sorts of budgets really to talk to. We couldn't see the value of doing it that way. So I was tasked to come up with, looking at alternatives. It was at that point that I came across a video on YouTube created by David Ferricks at Click, where he demonstrates the SAP accelerators using Click Replicate and Click Compose.
Okay.
So having seen that, I realized that was a really good fit for what we were trying to achieve. All of our data was in SAP ERP. I needed to create a data warehouse centered around common themes: procurement or procure to pay, sales around order to cash, inventory management, and the Click accelerators essentially give you those things out of the box. So I followed that up very quickly through our procurement team, and lo and behold, Click did a sterling job of basically getting David Ferricks on the call with INEOS.
Wow.
And I did comedically say with him, "Oh, I saw your demo on YouTube. It only took you 10 minutes. I'm sure you can do it for 5. And he actually did a live demonstration to ourselves,
Fantastic.
which was fantastic, which helped prove out that the technology had the capability to deliver what we were looking for.
Yeah. I guess for the people watching this, when you're talking about the Click accelerators, these are the accelerators that are pre-built by Click that comes with their Click data integration product. So
Correct.
this is the platform that Click use to be able to extract, load and transform data rather than the analytics product.
Correct.
Click.
Yes. It's one of the sides of Click that doesn't necessarily get talked about very often, but they have a fantastic near real-time replication technology in the form of Click Replicate. Used to be called Attunity. I'd had previous exposure to that tool in a previous company that I'd worked for, so that only helped with that conversation. But I didn't know at the time that they had these accelerators. So seeing David Ferrick's prove out that the accelerators would work really helped sort of drive that narrative about why we should be using that solution technology. Obviously, budget came into it, but given that the accelerators reduced the time to market, time to value, and came at a reduced cost in terms of, rather than, essentially what it came down to is either I can invest in building the capability with an army of consultants, or I can buy the capability by essentially going with Click and using the accelerators. That's not to say that the accelerators were perfect out of the box. We knew at the time that if the SAP implementation was heavily customized, we'd have to customize the accelerators as well. That's kind of where catalysts come in, but I'm sure we'll come onto that in a second. But for all intents and purposes, as an initial sort of pilot, rolling out, the order to cash accelerator, for example, got me where I needed to be in terms of being able to deliver some near real-time analytics around sales very quickly.
Yeah, the time to value was
correct.
Was
the time to was there, and it was key, and it didn't need it didn't need an army of consultants, and then secondary for that, instead of going Databricks, we obviously also chose Snowflake.
Why did you make that decision?
Yeah, so the reason behind that decision was I had previously used Snowflake. The Nectar database, or the Nectar platform, was delivered on Snowflake. So I had very good exposure to how Snowflake works. It's elastic cloud compute. It meant, in terms of the strategy that I had and the vision that I had, it meant that because it's a pay-as-you-go service, it essentially delivered the capabilities that we required at a reduced cost, but would grow with the company. So if our analytics use cases, which were connected vehicle in the future, when they came about, or IoT, for example, we're talking terabytes of data from the line, for example, when that requirement came in, our data warehouse capabilities could scale, and it could be scaled overnight. And also it didn't need, I knew from experience, it didn't need a host of database administrators to administer the product. I could actually administer that myself. So the combination of Click and Snowflake essentially devised the solution architecture for the data and analytics capability that we were looking to implement. And those are the solutions that we went with.
Cool. And you also touched on, it was at this point you came across Catalyst. So tell me a little bit about how that relationship started and the sort of value you've seen from working with Catalyst.
Yeah, so that it's a bit of a bittersweet one, really. So I did actually not start off with Catalyst, and I learned my lessons very fast. Or I guess what I would say to the audience is I failed fast. But it's good to fail fast. You learn from that. And I was partnered with a different vendor at the time. And the vendor was recommended to me by Click, but essentially they didn't really know the product. And that is where the gap was. So I basically went back to Click and said, look, I need a partner that's capable, that's competent, that can deliver time to value in a short space of time, that really knows the product. And that's when I was introduced to yourselves and Catalyst. And of course, we ran another RFP.
Very much.
Yeah, and you guys
put through the ringer on that one.
You were put through the ringer on that one. And I think one of the key selling points for me was the fact that you had SAP analysts or SAP architects in your team, or SAP consultants, I should say. And they essentially come from that SAP background where they not only have knowledge of the front end side of SAP, but the back end side of SAP, which is essentially a dark art, because it's not really in SAP's. SAP don't really want you to know how their data model works. So if anybody's working with SAP data, essentially, they want to they want you to buy SAP Analytics Cloud, but I needed to provide a capability which was agnostic of SAP Analytics. I didn't want to have the vendor lock-in with SAP Analytics Cloud. That's why we chose Qlik and Snowflake. So with the fact that Catalyst had the skills and experience that I was looking for, and that they had already demonstrated this value at other clients that you work with, essentially it was a no-brainer for me to partner with Catalyst to help deliver the analytics capability that I was looking for. And then that's when the partnership started, and it's coming up to it's been a year and a half, if I'm right.
Year and a half. Yeah. So I guess that brings us sort of fast forward to today. Obviously, you're now the company as itself is doing phenomenally well. You've launched. You've got two vehicles now. You've got the Grenadier, and then also the Fusilier. Yeah.
I was waiting.
Yeah, well, thank you for reminding for that. You've launched that across 3 continents.
Indeed.
So things are going really well. In terms of the data and analytics, you're delivering multiple data products to multiple departments.
Yes.
Which given where you started from to where you are now is just unbelievable in that short space of time. What are the 3 things that you would probably say were the biggest factors to contributing to your success?
Well, I'm still working on the success part of it. I think it's a journey.
Right,
it's a marathon, not a race, I guess. But the three major things I would say is I believe I've chosen the right solution technology. So that was one of the key things. Again, harking back to the strategy vision and the budget requirement. Do I have the technology that can provide the capability? Almost certainly, I fundamentally believe in that. Did it come at the right price point for INEOS? Yes, 100% it did. And also the partnership. Did I have the right consulting partnership with yourselves? Yeah. Yes. Obviously, I did have a road bump. I hit a bump in the road. But things have improved from there. I think one of the things I didn't touch on earlier in about my strategy and vision, my experience tells me that I didn't want my department to become the bottleneck for analytics. Fundamentally, what I see or have experienced in other companies is essentially people want more and more analytics because you answer one question, then essentially you get another question. So I wanted to give the capability to my end users to build their own reports and not become that bottleneck for IT. Yeah. So obviously in partnership with Catalyst, the way we've done things the way we've done the deliveries, we've implemented the accelerators, we've built Power BI data sets, and those data sets are essentially shared with the procurement team, the finance team, the after sales team and the sales team. And now they've got capability with their own teams to build their own reports. So again, I think that is a success factor for myself because I've not become that traditional bottleneck for providing capability to the business. They've got their own analysts and their own teams. They can use the technology to self-serve.
It's almost that classic data mesh type architecture.
Indeed.
Where the business has got the ability to be able to self-serve and not have to come back to the central.
Yeah, I think
central team.
I've been working in data analytics now for more than 25 years. I'm sure it shows, and I would say that the dream of anybody, if given a blank sheet of paper like I was, is to deliver self-service analytics. So again, that's one still thing that we're working on. It hasn't been perfect. It has been a bumpy road, but we are delivering on that capability, and I think that's testament to the success of the data analytics program at INEOS Automotive.
Definitely agree with that. What does the future hold? What does data analytics look like over the next 12, 18 months, given where the company's going?
So where we are at the moment, so we've successfully, in partnership with Catalyst, we've successfully delivered sales analytics, procurement analytics, finance. This year, we've got a huge drive, a huge push, as you know, Dan, on marketing side. So we're going to build a marketing data warehouse. That does not come with an accelerator out of Qlik. So that's something we're going to have to work on and bespoke. But that's something I'm really looking forward to.
Exciting project.
Yeah, exactly. And we, again, the source system for that is SAP C4C, which fantastically Qlik already has a native connector for that. So yeah, that's really useful. Again, proving that the capability is there and it works. So huge drive for marketing this year. So marketing data warehouse, huge push on after sales as well. So a lot of work around the after sales capability. And then I guess more future facing than that is we will be talking about more about the connected vehicle, maybe a app around the vehicle as well, more around the IoT data as well. And who knows, we may even have some, I am looking to provide some AI apps through provisioning those either through Click or Snowflake.
Yeah, there's a lot of noise in the market.
Yeah, using Copilot.
And...
Exactly, and seeing how sort of LLMs can work over our data lake, and see if there's any value in driving that. So yeah, there's a lot to do. There's definitely a journey to go on, like the vehicle itself. So I'm really looking forward to doing that and doing that with Catalyst.
Perfect. Well, Sailash, I'd just like to thank you again for spending the time for talking to us and doing this sort of mini podcast. And obviously later today, you're going to be chairing the lunch, the data elevation roundtable. So once again, thanks for giving up your time so generously. And myself and Catalyst look forward to working with you over the next 12, 18, 24 months.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dan. Thank you very much indeed. And I think one thing I forgot, another thing I would like to say is that I see this as more of a partnership. Even though I have my own analytics team, the way I've worked with Catalyst and the way Catalyst worked with me is that it doesn't matter which badge we're holding. I think we all have this really good relationship where, we hit bumps in the road. We have operational issues.
And we've had a few.
But we all pitch in as one team,
Definitely.
To get things done. And I think that's a really, really great thing to find in a partnership with a consulting partner. So yeah, thank you very much. Thank you, Dan, as well, and to your team.
Likewise.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.